Hello! In this video from the JUSTIA webinar, Law Marketing Ethics Issues in a Race for Clients, Micah Bookdahl, president of HTML Lawyers Incorporated, discusses ethical standards and enforcement within the legal marketplace, as well as reviewing some digital marketing tools. If you want to see more JUSTIA videos on law practice and legal marketing, be sure to subscribe to our channel.
Thanks, everybody, and thank you, Justia, for having me. For the next hour, we're going to talk about legal marketing ethics in the race for clients. One of the things that I find so interesting about this subject matter is I've been teaching it for over 20 years, and it never gets old, and it changes constantly. And so here we are in 2023, and it's just as new as it was when I first started talking about it in the late 90s. So on one side of this slide is the ad from Bates v. Arizona in 1977. And so two young guys getting out of law school, wanting to market a practice, hang their own shingle. And so they go and they want to basically put out this very benign directory ad until they find out that lawyers aren't allowed to market. And so that doesn't work until, again, 1977, when that ad was basically approved. If those two guys were graduating from law school right now and figuring out a way to hang their own shingle and get started in terms of marketing, I highly doubt they'd be concerned about a directory ad, but they'd probably be looking to figure out how to get on a TikTok and market themselves that way. So that's just when you look at the rules, and we look at the rules over the course of the last 45 years and the way they've changed, the way that we market changes significantly. Many of you in California are probably familiar with Miles and TopGunDUI. One of the reasons that I always go back to this website is it was displayed at the very first internet marketing ethics program I ever attended, probably around 1996, 97. And this was put up, this is the new website, but his old website was put up, and it was put up in this in this ethics presentation as this how terrible it was, the way that lawyers were marketing themselves, and whether or not what he was doing was ethical. And the thing is, what he was doing back then and today was ethical. It was different. And it was innovative. And like my friend Greg Siskin in the immigration law practice with VisaLaw.com, they were first movers. And so I go back and I look at some of the components of Miles' website today. It's obviously a lot more vibrant. It's got video, all kinds of other things. But I still am entertained by his Friends Don't Let Friends Plead Guilty trademark that's been out there for a couple of decades. And then the content on there, for example, the long list of people's blood alcohol levels and not guilty that's portrayed that's put out there. And just a reminder that, again, some of these folks that were out there early, it was maybe offensive to some, but in reality, they're the ones that have actually prospered and grown over the course of time. The other thing that we look at is the way that people advertise today, and it's not, we don't advertise in traditional ways anymore. This is an attorney who basically, advertises on Uber and Lyft cars in Florida. And so one of the things I find interesting about her practice is that she also represents people that get in accidents. So I just imagine that you're in a Lyft, you get in an accident, you get out of the car, you call the phone number, and you begin suing whomever it is that was driving you. So, but the question ends up being, what is that ad? Okay, the ad on the Uber. Do you look at it as simply the exact same as a billboard, and do you have to follow the rules of billboards in this case, Florida, which would mean having pre-approval of the ad. So it's about being creative in the way that you market yourself. And then the issues that come up. So the title of this program really comes from, from an Amtrak crash from last year, and I was just amazed. I mean, it's a little bit morbid. What I do is, I see an accident occur I'm on my desktop, I see something bad happen, and I think about the litigation that might spring from it, and then I immediately go out and look to see what lawyers are already out there in that space, sometimes minutes after the accident occurs. And so this Amtrak train crash, if you remember this crash in Missouri last year, of this train traveling from LA to Chicago, okay, it derails at 12:43 p.m. The accident occurs. By 5 o'clock that day, there were already attorney websites up for that specific accident. And by 9 a.m. the next morning, clients had already been retained as a result of those websites and the marketing that's done. The example that I have up here on the screen captured are a couple of press releases from a law firm in Chicago, again, announcing, basically talking about the accident and then talking about retaining a client the next day. And so, it reminds you about how quickly you need to move in some of these circumstances and some of these situations. I call it fast mover advantage. Okay, so what is it? This is another, terrible example, right, of a horrible accident in New York, a helicopter crash. These guys were like basically live online, showing, thumbs up and happy as could be, portraying their, their helicopter ride 1 minute and unfortunately in a deadly accident the next. And so what happens when, somebody sees these types of situations or accidents occur? So what are some of the things that you do? Okay, if you're a plaintiff's attorney and you work in this space, and by the way, the things that I talk about in this hour will cover every type of law firm and every type of practice and every type of jurisdiction. But in this case, talking about the aggressive nature of some plaintiff's practices, what are some of the things that people do the second that they see one of these accidents happen? They go out and they buy domain names tied to the accident itself. They buy AdWords and pay-per-clicks immediately before the price goes up. They create focused SEO pages. They issue news releases about the accident. They might hold a press conference. They target on social media various messages. So all these things that are done sometimes within minutes, if not hours, of the accident occurring. And it just is a reminder about how fast you need to move. There are other tools that are out there that you may or may not be familiar with, and you may or may not like them. But terms that people utilize in terms of, aggressive styles of digital marketing. The term newsjacking, which is injecting your ideas into a breaking news story and then generating media coverage and social media engagement from it. Geofencing, location-based marketing, creating a virtual geographical boundary and triggering a targeted marketing action. So areas that are often geofenced include, hospitals and emergency rooms and accident sites. Those are places that are geofenced. The concept of remarketing and retargeting. Remarketing refers to engaging audiences who have already interacted with you using collected email addresses. And then retargeting, I'm going to show you an example of retargeting in a little bit later, but using cookies to place ads in front of prospective clients. The concept of OTT and CTT, delivering to viewers in lieu of cable and broadcast TV, streaming ads, and CTV placing them alongside apps and shows on a connected device. So, just those as opposed to regular TV commercials. Regular TV commercials can be very difficult for people now, right? Because, I watched the Oscars the other night. I purposely turned it on an hour into the show. I then fast forwarded through every commercial and any award I didn't care about. Okay, so, so I didn't see a single ad that was put in front of me. When I watch Hulu, which I don't pay for the ad-free Hulu subscription, all of those ads that I cannot fast forward through, that I have to watch, are often dished up to me based on something in my demographic, an audience that they're trying to reach. It's very targeted and it's a lot more effective. And then I'm not really going to talk about ChatGPT. It's in the news all the time now. There's a great article from Marina at JUSTIA that's on the ABA Law Practice webzine site today about the use of ChatGPT. It's very hot, and it's led to a lot of potential ethics issues. I had a digital marketing person the other day come to me. We were talking about the online chat on a law firm's website. And so we're going through the chat, and somebody had complained that the answer that they were receiving in the chat wasn't proper. Okay, it wasn't, it wasn't profane, but it wasn't right. And so we're going through the chat, and I said, is this a live person? Because it says I'm talking to a live person. And then the guy says to me, well, I'm not sure. So, I wasn't sure that it wasn't a bot answering my questions. And so, so I think as this technology progresses and lawyers use it more, there are a lot of ethical issues that could come out of it. And we're going to talk about some of those things dealing with AI in this hour. Other components of marketing that doesn't necessarily always fall into the advertising realm are press releases. And so in one example up here, this is from actually the Amtrak crash in, I believe, 2016. And that was a deadly crash in Philadelphia. And so again, like a law firm puts out a press release saying that they're accepting train accident cases. Now, I started my career as a PR guy. Okay, I used to issue press releases all the time in pro sports. And that's not news, right? Like, I'd get yelled at if I sent a press release in that way to, the Washington Post, because they'd be like, that's not news, okay? And so the question is, are these press releases advertising or are they news? And there's some states that look at a press release, and sometimes, when I send that press release directly to a journalist, it is not advertising, okay? I can be flowery, I can boast, I can say whatever I want. And the journalist can sit there and look at it and go, that guy's blowing smoke, right? But if I put that exact same press release on my law firm website, then it becomes part of the website and it becomes advertising. On the other side here, I have Firm News. That's basically the use of PR Newswire, which is, again, a very effective way of getting found online. He's using PR Newswire. And that's a real gray area between whether or not it's advertising or whether it's not. Most of the time, you're going to be able to effectively argue that a PR Newswire press release, which is very effective and comes up very high on a search engine result, is not going to be deemed a press release. But it's another way of generating attention and traffic, and it's an area that's not cut and dried in regard to its promotional value. Press conferences are an area, especially in this space, in dealing with the race for clients, that always kind of bothers me, because when a lawyer goes right to an accident scene and holds a press conference, that to me goes against the whole concept of the solicitation ban and what you are and aren't allowed to do. Yet, if it's considered a press conference, okay, most people do not consider it advertising, but it's another way that a lot of attorneys use as a tool sort of outside the regular marketing realm to generate attention and generate traffic. One of the opinions that I really like from, and it's still good today, from Florida and from California in 2016, was an ethics opinion dealing with when is blogging a communication subject to the RPC and related attorney advertising regulations. And so the concept of this ethics opinion, and it really sort of is something that's highlighted often in California and other places as well, is you look at it and you go, are you saying you are available for professional employment? So when I look at a blog post, okay, are you saying that you're promoting yourself, that you're up there, that you're available for hire? And so it's the concept of differentiating between this. The same thing works for social media, right? Am I advertising or am I just talking? Okay, am I giving you information or am I selling? And so that's what California does. They'll look at it and go, you're selling. Okay, so now it's an ad, and now you have to follow the ad rules. Or, no, you're just giving me an article, a client alert. You're giving me information. And so the differentiation between, whether or not content is marketing or not is sort of addressed in this opinion from 2016, which, again, is still really effective, which lends itself to the whole concept of content marketing. And so content marketing is a huge buzzword today, right? It's not just a buzzword. It's really the way that we often market. And so when I talked about having trouble getting across to someone because I can't get a TV commercial in front of you, that's the way a lot of things work in marketing, whether it's legal or any other type of product advertising is that our focus is often on content marketing. And content marketing often takes us outside the realm of advertising and into the concept of providing content. And so one example I have up here on this slide is the symbol for a podcast. So is a podcast advertising? Sometimes, right? Like if your law firm creates the podcast, promotes the podcast, puts it on their website, posts it a bunch of places, okay, that may be considered in some capacity under the advertising rules. If you are a guest on a podcast, which is often considered more editorial in nature, okay, like you being a guest on that podcast, that's not going to be considered advertising. If your law firm pays someone for you to be on the podcast and you are sponsoring the podcast, then perhaps it falls into the advertising realm. So when I've reviewed podcasts, all these different types of podcasts for law firms, I often tinker with the language of the intro of the podcast, make sure the disclaimer language is in there. I look at the way the podcast is promoted on the actual page itself. And I listen to whether or not I feel like the attorney's giving legal advice, possibly crossing the line. So that's the concept of a podcast in terms of content marketing. One other example I give up here, an old slide, it deals with someone writing a book on winning personal injury cases. And the reason that I put this particular book in this slide up here is that this guy got a case from that Amtrak crash in Philadelphia by virtue of a family doing Google searching, finding this personal injury book, feeling like this guy wrote the book on PI, I'm going to go to him. And so again, it's the concept of taking the book, putting it out there, and then being seen as an author, being seen as an industry expert. Below, you see my promotion for this program right now. Okay, so right now, this is content marketing, right? I'm doing it right now. Okay, so, and this is great content marketing for JUSTIA, and it's great content marketing for MICA, right? Because for JUSTIA, they're providing content, okay? They're not selling you product, they're providing content. They're giving you a service. For MICA, okay, I've got an audience. I'm going to talk about an area of law that I work in and that I practice in, and hopefully you sit there and go like, that guy knows what he's talking about. And so it's the concept of content marketing. This isn't an ad. And now we do sometimes tune into programs and we're like, this is a damn commercial, right? That's not happening here and it won't. But for the most part, this is content marketing. It's not an advertisement. And then another example I have up here is an article, Archaic Rules Hobble Attorneys. This is the best thing I've ever written in all my years. I wrote this as an op-ed piece for the National Law Journal in 2009. You can Google and hit this article in 2023. I've had people call me and say, I have a question, and say, like, I read the article you wrote in the National Law Journal, and I'm like, that was from 2009, and they're like, it's still good, okay? And so it's still good, and it's still up there. And so, again, this is content that creates opportunity, and it's not advertising. It's all part of content marketing. The thing I want to point to on this slide for law.com is you see the Wolferman's ad up there. That is retargeting. Okay, that means that Micah is playing around looking at English muffins probably the day before I looked on this page. Now, there are a lot of people who will think like, oh, Wolferman's is advertising on law.com. That's not what's happening, and it's not a coincidence that the Wolferman ad is redisplayed. There are a lot of law firms that use this retargeting as a technique. You've already been to their website. You've already expressed an interest in an area of law, and now here you are getting it dished up again. And so that's the concept of retargeting. But this all surrounds itself in regard to the concept of content marketing.
We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more law practice and legal marketing videos. See you in our next clip.